Alright, let's get it started. Hi everyone, and welcome to another Mighty Ginkgo tutorial. My name is Zero, and I'll be your instructor for this lesson. Now previously, we did a tutorial on how to extract Bento mesh, but I listed a bunch of reasons why I never really did a straight tutorial, because when you extract the mesh, you weren't able to study the bones like we could do with non-Bento mesh. And that's kind of what I hated. But thanks to our good friend Ember, who fixed the program, patched it, now we're able to extract Bento mesh, and we can finally research some Bento rigs in Blender and other 3D platforms, which is fantastic. I made that emergency video showing about the news and showing what it did, and I'm still excited about it. Ignore that sewing machine in the back. That was for our Marvelous Designer class I just finished filming. Or gotta film, whichever comes first. Anyway, so that's what this video is about. We're going to be talking about how to extract Bento mesh and how to look at it in Blender so we can research it, modify it, and all the rest of that jazz that we like to do when we extract our meshes. For this tutorial, you're going to need a copy of Darkstorm or any kind of special viewer. I'm using Darkstorm 3.1.0.os. You can get that pretty much from our Secrets of Darkstorm description link. You're going to need a copy of the new patched meshes, the Ember edition. And obviously you're going to need a Second Life viewer so you can extract your stuff. And you're going to need a Bento mesh to extract and study. So let's go over to our tutorial and let's get it started. This is our Bento Specimen. Now she may look familiar. That's because this is the specimen that we created in the at the Second Life birthday event when we were converting a Second Life avatar into a Bento avatar. Since I don't really have a lot of Bento items, this one is just gonna have to do. It's a Bento, and it's mesh, and it can be extracted. So, it's the perfect test subject. So, as you can see here in the regular viewer, she is bentoed, her hands are out, we can see her. But if we go over to our Darkstorm viewer, it's going to be a totally different scene, and that's what we're going to look at. So, let's pop on over to Darkstorm and take a look at the extraction process. Oops. Okay, so we're here in Darkstorm, and as you can see, the avatar has a totally different look here going about her. It's a mess. This is because Darkstorm doesn't have the ability to properly display Bento. But just because it doesn't have the ability to display Bento doesn't mean that it doesn't see its data. And that's what we really need, is its data. It doesn't really matter how we see it. So what we're going to do, which is different from our normal mesh extraction, is that we're going to XML export our Bento thing we want. So in this case, we're just going to right click on our target, and it may flip out a bit, but don't worry, it's normal, and go XML export, and I'm just going to hit all because I want everything that's on her. And you can download the textures this way, and they will save as a JP1 or JPEG1, whatever, but we'll talk about that later. We can, convert those if you want. Anyway, so extraction. So once everything is selected that you want, just hit DS export, and we're going to, let's just save it on my desktop for it. No. We gotta keep this stuff, our workspace clean. So create a new folder, Bento Jazz, and then save your XML. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Now, if you want your textures to not be in the default JC2 format, you can manually extract them by clicking on them in your avatar or whatever you're trying to extract and doing a standard mesh extraction, and it brings up all the textures and stuff that way, and you can save it this way. One thing that you have to make a note of is that Second Life does not import textures onto rig items. What I mean by that is, when we have a static mesh, we can check that box that says include textures, and the textures, if applied onto there, will show up onto the mesh. But when you try to do that with a rigged item, it's always blank. I didn't know that until somebody said that in the Blender chat, and it's like, oh, well, that makes sense. So you'll have to manually place the textures onto your model when it comes in world. So just be prepared for that. Alright, so that's it for Darkstorm. Like the previous version, we'll have to close this and before we run meshes, because you can't run Darkstorm and meshes at the same time. So we're going to have to close Darkstorm and then go into our meshes program, and then we'll be able to extract our bento. So I'm going to pause this and then load everything up for you. Okay, so pardon the appearance of my desktop. When you download the RAR file, the zip file, you'll see a bunch of files in here like this. You're going to need to put them in their own folder somewhere, like in your desktop or maybe in your documents folder, somewhere, anywhere. Just don't try to run the program while it's still in the archive. That is bad. So we're going to just put it into our bento folder, since I already have one in my documents. I'm just going to put it here so we can run it. I think this one should run fresh, so it'll allow me to show you how to set it up. So anyway, we have it in here in our folder, and we're going to just click it and run the program. Now there is something that you need to do beforehand that I really should mention. You need to make sure that you turn your virus protection off, because this is a hacking program, similar to like kind of like a keygen sort of thing. A lot of the virus detection stuff will try to block it or even delete it. So when you run this, you got to make sure that that's off. Another thing that you'll need to do is to make sure that you have hidden folders viewable, because if you don't have your hidden folders viewable, you won't be able to send the program to the Darkstorm cache unless you put your cache into a certain folder. When you had your cache folder isn't in the default place, then you don't have to worry about the hidden folders. But for the most part, you may want to do that. So to make your folders visible in Windows, you just open up any regular folder and you press F10, and it brings up this little hidden menu here. Then you're going to go to Tools, Folder Options, and you're going to select View. And you want to check this box here, Show Hidden Files, Hidden Folders, and Drives. And then you hit OK. So that'll help you out when you're doing it. So now that we have that set, we're going to start running meshes. When you open it, it'll tell you this error. Remember to select the texture cache path for your viewer, which we just set up so we could. So just say OK. So meshes will just instantly pop up. No more loading screen with an inspirational message and wonderful art. It just goes straight to the business. So we're going to have to set our driver here. And unfortunately, you can't type in the driver, nor can you paste the location in. You'll have to manually navigate to that folder. So by default, your cache folder is, well, you just gotta click this button and we can navigate there. So when you navigate, it'll pop up like this, and you just want to double click your desktop and reveal everything, because mine is stupid like that. And you're gonna go to let's see, how does it go? It's okay, that's much better than what I had to go through. Alright, so you double click desktop to reveal all the folders, then you go to your username, then you go to app data, then you go to local, then you scroll down till you see Darkstorm, and once you just select Darkstorm, you don't have to select the folders inside of it, you just click Darkstorm, and you hit OK. And then it'll add it into your cache folder. Next, underneath it, we have our files, the XML file to read. So this is where you saved your XML file when we exported it. So I'm going to go here, and we're going to go to the project folder, and we're going to look for our Untitled. And you see it has all the stuff that we exported from here. Now if you already saved, if you had meshes before and you extracted stuff, to keep it from going to the, when you exported something previously. In the past, they would just say, hey, you already exported that mesh. Here's a shortcut to that. And won't let you do it. And you have to remove the whole cache and start over. In this new version, you don't have to do that anymore. All you have to do is just check yes when they ask you, do you want to overwrite existing DAY files? Say yes, and you can just keep exporting and saving over the thing without having to clear out your cache like we did before. So once we have that set, we're just going to check the box, create DAY for all files. Say okay, okay, and okay. And then that's it for meshes. So we just close it. Now let's go back over here to our project folder. Let's make it a little bit bigger. Well, let's make it bigger so we can see, but this is even worse. Anyway, so we have all the items that we had extracted into our folder. When you go to click on it, let's see, our head mesh, it'll get a folder inside that says files to upload, so you're going to double click. And you're going to right click on this because it says head-mesh.day. And that makes you think, oh, well, that's the mesh, right? No, it's a shortcut to the mesh. The mesh saves into a folder on your C drive somewhere called days. DAs. So we want to go in there and we want to grab our file that we have. So what we need to do is right click on our the shortcut, and you want to go down to where it says show file location, and it will highlight the mesh that you want, and you just cut, go back, and then paste it. So now we can just select it and you upload it and use it for all our research. Now the great thing about this version of meshes, this patched version, is that we can view the bones in Blender. So I'm going to show you that right now. And I'm going to go import day. I'm going to navigate to that folder, which I still forgot. There, Bento Jazz. And now you see we have our our body, but the bones are missing. How strange. So let's go figure out what the heck happened, because this isn't right. So I'll be right back. Okay, so sorry about that. I don't know what happened. I think it might be the version 4.2 that I was using. So I would say stick with the 3.9 right now, or when we fix this issue, you can download 4.2. So I had to go back a version and use 3.9 and test that out, and it works fine. For some reason 4.2 isn't working. So I'll talk to Ember about that and see what he says, and we'll post the update the version on that now. So follow these steps. Everything is still the same. Just use 3.9 and then later on switch over to 4.2 once we get the update fixed. So to prove that it works, actually, hang on, my monitor just flicked off. Come on, monitor. There you go. Sorry, now see you guys again. Alright, so what we need to do is import our mesh, and just to show that it works. So collada and select this. Alright, so you see the bones and stuff already in there. I'm going to click on the bones and then turn the X-ray on. And you see it's got all the bento bones inside. And they work. So now if we wanted to modify a rig that we already made without having to start it over from scratch, we can just export it out, or we can study how those heads are rigged, what they do, so that we can get a better understanding of bento mesh, which is really what we need to be doing anyway. I would love to see how heads are properly rigged and so on and so forth, so that we can get better designs and more efficient rigging and things inside Second Life, which is always a win-win. So, as you see, we have it all here, and everything is fine. So now it comes into play as how do we import it. So I'm going to jump over into Second Life real quick and then do the importing process. Alright, so because I love you guys, I'm going to do this on the the main grid and not the beta grid. So we're going to import our mesh like we always do. So just go to build, upload, mesh, and Bento Jazz, head mesh, upload, all that junk. Oh no, look at that. We got an error when we tried to import it in. However, shall we fix this? Let's go back into Blender, shall we? So let's go into Blender, and you see we have our model here. Sometimes when you extract mesh from Second Life, it'd be Bento static or something, you get that error. It's mostly because it did a crappy job exporting it, and you gotta run it through a real, I feel like those people, you gotta run it through a real machine, a real exporting thing, and not just an emulation of one. So what we need to do is bring our mesh here into Blender, click on the body like so, click on the head in there, and we're just gonna go File, Export, Day, and we're gonna set the preset to rigged. And then we're going to go back to our project folder, because, why not? And then hit export. Alrighty, so let's go back into Blender and see what happens when we do that. Oh, wait. Bento Jazz. See? I mean, it looks a little wonky, but when we wear it, it'll be fine. So like always, 0 to 0, because nobody's on low and lowest, and if they are, they're doing it anyway. So turn skin weights, and I don't think I changed the joint locations to that, so we don't need that. So just hit upload. Wait for it. Oh my god, 14.0. I'm ever so broke. Great. Now, like I said, it won't come in textured, so we have to texture it ourselves. So just res it on the ground. Ignore its many facial thingies. Edit your link parts. Scoot it on over. Grab your body. Scoot it on up. I believe I had feet. And I do have feet. They're inside. So let's unlink everything. Not the building. For heaven's sake, not the building. Oh no, my feet are inside my body. Alright, not an issue. We can fix that. First, you mind if I stretch this? This elongated thing is driving me bananas. Alright, so let's upload the textures. By upload, I mean go into local. You can upload them yourselves. I'm working on a budget here, people. Alright, so we have our textures, and we just edit linked, or select the face. But I guess y'all's would be like a lot bigger with all the chopped up stuff, so I guess link part. Anyway, just apply the texture to your body. And down here, my face. I think I got my feet right. Yep, my feet's good. Okay. So we're going to link this together. Now remember, nothing extracts scripts, so you will have to transfer your body scripts over from the source to the replica if you want to get the scripts to work into that. Please don't IM me asking me about that, because I just told you. Alright, so I'm going to name this the replica. That way you guys know that it is indeed the replica and not me pulling the old switcheroo on you. Alright, so we have everything here. We take the replica and we send it to our dear test subject. Whoops. There you go. Alright, I'm going to switch over and we're going to put on the replica. Alright, so here's our test subject. We're going to strip. Huzzah for Barbie texture. That's how you keep your video from getting banned. And we're going to slap on the replica. I should have pulled the old switcheroo on y'all. So what in the blinking magog happened to this body? You may be asking. And I will say, that's a very good question. So let's look at the replica again. And that's all kinds of wrong. So I have a few guesstimates as to what happened to this. And the first of it is going to be, one, I should have used a newer version of Blender. So let's go back over to Blender and figure out what happened. So I'm going to switch over. Okay, so there's a couple of things I can think of that went wrong with this. One, that maybe I used joint locations and it didn't come in right. So we'll see what happens if we encounter this problem and we try to use joint locations. My fight money. Yeah, you're right. Second Life will show it as being totally effed up. Good to know. And even if I use joint location, that's not going to help. So what happened? I think it's because of the bento stuff that's in there didn't react properly to this older blender that I'm using. So, to fix this, we're going to have to load up our experiment in a new fancy blender, 2.79. And then export it through that. So let's open up our blender, and we're going to import our OBJ. I'm so used to working with OBJs right now. Our day. Let's go back to our project folder. Let's get out of here. Bento Jazz and this. Actually, no, we don't want that. This is a bad that. So let's import the source. Okay, so we have it here. I'm going to click on the bones just to make sure it's have it. Sorry. X-ray. What? Okay. Click on the bones and X-ray them bones so we can look at them. I wonder why my neck split open like that. Oh, that's because I got the body on X-ray. The head on X-ray? There we go. Okay. X-ray on the body is no good. X-ray of the bones. That's good. Alright, so let's select our mesh again and try exporting it one more time. This time in a newer exporter that can handle that. So let's file, export, make sure we do rigged again, and Bento Jazz. Of course it's not showing up. And then I'm going to click this plus button a few times, hit export. Alright, let's try putting it in this time. Alright, skin weights. Look at that. Much better. So when you're doing this and you're bringing your mesh in to Second Life and you get that error and you want to work on it, make sure you're in the latest blender, not my good old classic 2.72. No siree Bob. You do that, you get the 15. Alright, I guess it's worth paying one extra L for it to, work. Alright. Same bag as before. Resin on the ground. Sorry for in your ears. Scoot the stuff over. Apply DOS textures. Making sure that you got it on the right material so you don't have boobs on your legs. Cool. Now, we send it over to confetti. Put that one on. And if all goes well, there we go. My body is shaped right. Now I may need to, give her shape back, or at least play around with it. But for the most part, everything seems to be working. Sorry she doesn't have a texture on her. I mean, if we look at it from my original one, then it should be, pretty dang fine. But let's see if the bento came in. So we'll do the hand test. Oh, well, we got the Bento hand HUD. We can slap that on. Hand test, you see. Bento's working. So everything came in fine. Alright, so that's it for Bento mesh extraction, editing, and troubleshooting. Sorry the tutorial went a little bit longer than I expected, but we were able to cover some really good errors that you may run into and how to fix it. In short, you're going to use Darkstorm to XML export your mesh. You're going to run it through the meshes program that's been provided, either 3.9 or 4.2 or whatever, depending on what time we decide to update this video. Once it goes through meshes, you're going to click on the exported file shortcut and go to open file location. Take your mesh from the day folder and put it back into the folder it came from, where the shortcut is located. Once it's there, you can either directly upload it into Second Life. However, if you directly upload it back into Second Life, you have to be aware that you may encounter some errors because of the way it was exported. So, to fix those common errors, you have to run it through Blender, where Blender can do the proper checks on it and then export it out properly. It is recommended that you use Blender 2.79 or above, whatever, that you don't use the old 2.72 Blender, because if you use the old 2.72 Blender, as you saw when we first did it, it may come out janked. And by jank, I mean really messed up like this. And we don't want that. I think it's because the 2.72 is missing some kind of coding that makes it export out properly and misreads it. Let's just call it volumes or something. That problem has been fixed in the newer Blender to 2.79, as you can see here, where we exported it through the default, not even an Avastar export, but the default export, and we got a replica of confetti. So once you have all of that done, you can back up and store and use your extracted mesh. So I hope this helps you out with your projects, and I hope you'll be able to create many things using these techniques, and as I plan on using it for studying all these unique bento rigs and stuff like that, and further the craft of rigging and all the rest of that fun jazz. Or you can just finally make a copy of that really good bento garment or something like that. Whatever you use it for, hopefully you use it for good, like we always try to enforce here at the Mighty Ginkgo. Well, that's it for this tutorial. Stay tuned for our next lesson, which is to be announced, because I don't even know what it's going to be. Alright, that's it for that. I'll see you guys later, and like always, good luck on your projects.